A chilling new UN report titled More Than a Human Can Bear highlights how Israel systematically used sexual, reproductive, and other forms of gender-based violence since the 7th of October 2023.
It is the first in-depth UN investigation into sexual, reproductive, and other forms of gender-based violence by the Israeli security forces and Israeli settlers since October 2023, as part of a broader effort to undermine their right to self-determination. It also concludes that Israel has carried out genocidal acts through the systematic destruction of sexual and reproductive healthcare facilities.
According to the UN, these crimes have been targeted both men and women, children and the elderly differently in order to, quote, dominate, oppress and destroy the Palestinian people.
The frequency, prevalence and severity of sexual and gender-based crimes perpetrated across the occupied Palestinian territory leads the Commission to conclude that sexual and gender-based violence is increasingly used as a method of war by Israel to destabilise, dominate, oppress and destroy the Palestinian people. The Commission documented a pattern of sexual violence, including cases of rape and other forms of sexual violence, torture and other inhumane acts that amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity.
The report found that women have been disproportionately impacted. Some have been stripped in front of their family members and others sexually assaulted in detention centres.
Israeli male soldiers exposing their genitals at checkpoints? I haven't heard of this before. How common is it? Is it particular checkpoints where this is occurring? Does it seem to be focused specifically on women or?
Yes, it is prevalent in certain checkpoints in Hebron. So I went on a field visit the other day and we had to sneak in because we're not allowed into the H2 area, and I had to talk to women, and she said that there's a certain checkpoint. If you go through that checkpoint, you're more likely to see genitals that day. And I verified that with other women that day on the same field visit. I have one testimony of a woman who was heading to university, and when she got to the checkpoint, and because of the structure of the checkpoint, it's closed. So nobody sees what goes on in there. So if you get into the checkpoint, nobody sees because it has, I can show you pictures, but it's closed. So it's not exposed to the public. So when she got in there, she said the soldier stood in a corner in which the cameras wouldn't videotape him. He knew which blind spot for the camera. And then he exposed his genitals and he said, come take a look, come touch it, in Arabic. This is one of the cases we documented. But also I've talked to the women and they said, yes, there's an infamous checkpoint in Hebron in which the soldier does that to women and girls who go through this checkpoint, and they started avoiding going to that certain checkpoints. We have similar cases in Jerusalem against schoolgirls, but this schoolgirl was molested and she was touched by the Israeli soldiers at the checkpoint. And she's 14 years old. She was getting to the school and they pretended to be searching her. They took her backpack. They threw everything on the ground. They started touching her breasts, touching her inappropriately. And she said, I felt like this was not a proper search that we usually, and where's a female soldier to search me? And this girl's terrified to go to school anymore. So depends on the situation, but I would say yes, there are infamous checkpoints.
Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported in August 2024 that one resident said that the harassment became a routine and that Israeli forces said, quote, nasty words to her. Women stated that they were afraid to go to the checkpoint alone. The violence isn't limited to women. Palestinian boys and men have also been subjected to sexual abuse, filmed and photographed as a form of humiliation.
ثم أحضر عصاي طويلة وبدأ بالضرب على جسمنا وعلى راسنا وعلى أجرينا، وبدأ بالقفز على ظهري حتى يتسبب إلي بعاهة مستديمة من خلال كسر ظهري. فلما نبيته عن ظهري استشاط غضب بزيادة واستمر في الضرب تقريبا بين 5 ل 10 دقائق. اعتقد هو مع صراخي اعتقد اني انا يعني حالتي الجسدية ضعفت. حاول مرة أخرى فتوقف على ظهري، وحاول مرة أخرى استخدام العصاي لا إدخالها في مؤخرتي.
And we reported earlier in June 2024. Are Israeli soldiers torturing Palestinians to death by putting metal rods up their anuses? This is tantamount, an Israeli military base in southern Israel that, based on survival testimonies, has been acting as a torture and interrogation camp.
The Commission has not received any information about prosecutions of members of the Israeli security forces or Israeli settlers for sexual and violence committed since October 2023.